My dear sister, I think it is right that I should write you today. I bought my burial spot, or rather, paid down on it, and have made all plans for my bones to rest here when my time comes. I went and did that the minute I finished taking the oath to be an American citizen. I bless my luck that I made it. You can't imagine how many unfortunate Jamaicans are here working and hiding with no security to ensure they can stay here and won't suddenly find themselves on Ellis Island one day waiting to be sent back. Thank God I won't ever set eyes on that downgraded place again. I don't know how you stand it, but you could always stand anything. Not me. Now I think in Barmengated with all the darkness and mud and wonder how I stayed there that long. It is cold here, but you don't feel it because there is central heating. And it hardly rains. The snow is beautiful when it comes. I hope that one day I will be able to send you the fare for a 17-day trip. Then you will see for yourself. We will go to Coney Island and some other of the wonders of the world. Kiss the children for me. Poor things. I wish I had money to let them have a future here. But who knows? By the time June is old enough, I may be able to sponsor her then. She can work and study here. She seems fairly bright. Thank God Georgia will escape the Kingston slums. Her visa will come through any time now. It was being held up by this citizenship business. She will learn to type here, although she couldn't get a certificate over there. You know how the teachers aren't any good, anyways. Stenographers make quite a tidy sum over here. I must close now. I'm celebrating the citizenship with a little party Saturday night. Hope to invite all the cousins. Be good to your dear self and keep well. Your sister, Letitia. The letter was lying on the bureau, and it was none of my business. Besides, they had always taught me not to read anything not addressed to me. But Aunt Teach was my private and personal study in human psychology. How on earth she could have grown up in the same house as my practical, down to earth mother, I don't know. Here we were, not even aware that we were in misery, and there she was, wasting so much pity on us. Who decides what is meat and what is poison? Outside, I spread my crocus bag under the soursop tree on the slope where the path to our house was almost vertical. The highest spot was my pillow, and my body hugged the slope. I clasped my hands under my head and stretched at full bony length, looking up at the sky that was hot and clear, with only a stray cloud here and there to remind the world that clouds were possible. I marveled at the relentless heat I knew was pouring itself a foot or so beyond my shade of soursop leaves and the deep cool of my shaded bed. And I marveled at how the peace of the heat and cool and the clustered greenery of orange trees as far as I could see could mesmerize me. And I knew that the city, my city then, or any future city, could never claim that grass-bound hill-bound soul of mine. I felt a great pity for my aunt, almost as great as the pity she felt for me. But even more, I pitied Georgia, who hadn't asked her mother to put her name on any list of children waiting to leave the sun to share their parents' cold. I thought of her with sympathy, but couldn't really guess how truly horrible was the honor her mother and that great accomplice Uncle Sam were waiting to inflict on her. I had missed her, that Georgia. They drove me through the Bronx my first Sunday in New York. I was very, very quiet. My friends were very polite. Nobody questioned my silence. They hadn't seen me for a long time. Perhaps my talkative nature had given way to a new somberness. I was sitting in awesome silence because I beheld an awesome sight. Nothing in my experience had prepared me for the Bronx. Nothing had prepared me for this place people spent whole anxious lifetimes waiting to get visas and letters of invitation to come up to. My imagination had known a Bronx that was clean and beautiful and far, far superior to anything I had ever seen. When Miss Hannah, the people's warden at church, went up to spend time with her daughter and wrote back a letter to be read to the whole church during notices time, I was able to read the last line of the return address on the envelope flapping in Parson Brassington's hand. Bronx, New York. And here I was now, in the Bronx, and in the presence of so much ugliness. All the words that came to me spoke of depression. They were uncomplimentary words that described a place that could not be complimented. Burnt out, dirty, dingy, waste. Brooklyn and Harlem wouldn't ever shock me. Not this way, for I had seen the Bronx first. At noon one ordinary Monday, I found my way to the subway station and descended into the bowels of New York to emerge clutching my paper with directions. And quickly, with surprising ease, I found the building where my aunt worked. I asked for Mrs. Letitia Grant and heard, "You Miss Grant niece? Go right inside room 3. She's waiting for you." And sure she was. Aunt Teach, powdered bright pink, black eyebrows drawn in to make her face look anything but what God intended. I tower over her, and her enthusiastic hug forces me to her head covered with clusters of wig curl. Eventually she surfaces, and putting me away from her, eyes me like the best young Jersey heifer at a country cattle judging contest. "Well, I tell you, my June, in the U.S., at last. But what happened to your hair? You in this nonsense cutting it off too? I had told my friends to expect my niece, I should have said nephew. Now where have I heard that before?" I smiled with the interior confidence that some of the most discerning eyes I know commented on how well that style suited me. Aunt Teach drags me to every last cipher in the office. Cool young men, working machines, and aging women like herself typing. All 60 acknowledging 40. All cheaply overdressed. All happily bewigged. My sister had told me that in America, the wig is a black woman's "Good morning, white America, how are you?" before coffee, before prayers, if any, before good morning to your black mother who sleeps in the bed next to you. But she didn't tell me that the wig could be blonde, and she didn't warn me how the wig and the age lines on the neck might contradict each other. These things I had to see for myself. "So nice to meet you, delighted. Oh, Miss Grant, ain't she cute?" And me there with my face aching from the permanent 32 teeth grin. And by the time they had finished with me, I was wondering which exam I had managed to leave out in the chronicle of achievements Aunt Teach set out. Surely I was the brightest thing to ever hit the schools of Jamaica. The co-workers were kind. All of them allowed themselves to look truly impressed. My second Sunday in God's own country, Aunt Teach brought Georgia so they could take me to see Brooklyn and to spend the whole day. I had been apprehensive about her visit, but her wig and her "because" beginning in every sentence, and I wondered if the children would be able to keep from laughing and giving me a bad name. As it was, I had no time for all that. Aunt Teach gushed in, predictably, the loveliness of the children, etc., etc. But it was Georgia that held me. She didn't talk much. She only giggled and flicked back the hair of her wig the way white people and horses do. Her wig was long and straight, not short and curly like her mother's. And while Aunt Teach took off on how I had shamed her before her friends with my baldness, all I could do was stare. I couldn't giggle. I couldn't talk. I just sat, for I was concentrating on Georgia and what Aunt Teach and her visa and Uncle Sam had made of her. She wasn't a person for me. She was just a bewigged, giggling puppet with more makeup than anyone should wear this side of the footlights. Madness takes so many different forms. Aunt Teach had to be most mad to frighten Georgia into this state. She was glad to see me, I knew. She was glad. Now she had stopped giggling, that I had got a chance to at last visit the great USA. I know. She hoped that I too wouldn't want to go back to that downgraded place. I know. I appreciated her concern, but I appreciated even more the fact that she no longer existed, that there was no Georgia for me to see, that this thing created out of the imagination of my crazy aunt was what I would have to get accustomed to in the name of my cousin, who had been simple, yes, but not mad until her mother gave her a chance to make it in the US of A. We always envied children in my school who had parents in America. Every time there was a fair or even a film at school, they sallied forth in such outstanding splendor that the entire population was filled with envy. There was something really special about American clothes. Those that were new, that is, and obviously bought for the wearer, as opposed to the anonymous types from Salvation Army barrels. There was a kind of elegance, a finished look about them that our dressmakers couldn't imitate, at least not the dressmakers we could afford then. And the shoes, with their tiny heels and look of great comfort, as if the wearer would never feel discomfort in them. We never questioned whether America was a great place to be. It was. Nice clothes were forever coming down, and every year somebody had a relative who was going up. And at Christmas, there was this endless stream of large cards with powder in their hearts or padded flowers coming from Brooklyn and the Bronx. I wrote home to my father and begged him not to tell anybody I had gone up.